Time travel is a scientific wet dream, but any way you slice it, the movies never quite get the theories right. The most glaring example of being wrong is Superman. Not to point out the obvious, but spinning a planet doesn't change time. At all. In any way. Obviously. Not to mention, Superman would give 7.5 billion people some serious whiplash. And by whiplash, I mean you'd be whipped off the planet, and you'd die. No, but really, we move at 1,000 miles an hour just by existing on a spinning rock. If you suddenly spun it in the other direction at the same speed, all of us would just go, ah! Back to the Future. Now this is a movie that actually makes the science of how to time travel seem somewhat plausible. Pause, rewind. But why wouldn't this work? It's all dependent on wormholes, a theoretical portal to bring you forwards and backwards in space and time. But the problem is, giant wormholes don't just exist willy-nilly, if at all. And there's no scientific evidence that you can just make one on your own. At most, some theories say that they're everywhere, but smaller than an atom. So that means Doc Brown and his plutonium and his flux capacitor have to be able to stretch out a small wormhole into one big enough for a DeLorean. Wormholes are suggested to contain strong forces of gravity. Gravity is what warps the time and could theoretically make time travel possible. But that same gravity would also make the wormhole likely to collapse in on itself. The only theoretical way to keep it open long enough to pass through would be to negate gravity in some way. This could be by using something like negative energy, a kind of anti-gravity, but most of the scientific community still argues about whether or not that even exists. Whether or not 88 miles an hour would be fast enough to keep a wormhole open is irrelevant. Negative energy is what would be Doc and Marty's saving grace. Without that, Back to the Future just doesn't cut it. It is still such a great movie though. Probably the most accurate film of the bunch, Interstellar draws on a concept that is known for the belief of actual time travel. It's Einstein's theory of relativity. Basically, it states that things like gravity can warp or distort time. So if you're on a planet that has a heavy gravitational pull, and I'm on a spaceship outside of that pull, you'll experience time faster than I would. An hour for you might be a day for me. But with this theory, you can't go back in time. You can only go forward. And really, you're not even going forward, you're just experiencing time at an accelerated rate relative to how everyone else is experiencing it. So no matter what, you'd still age along your own personal timeline, and so would everyone else. That's why at the end of the movie, Joseph Cooper is 124 years old, but still looks fantastic. It's not the most glam form of time travel, and isn't really time travel to begin with, but it's the only theory that makes theoretical sense. Time travel will always straddle the worlds of science and science fiction. Probably more on the side of science fiction in Back to the Future and Superman. So for now, until Interstellar is a reality, we just have to keep imagining time travel in the magic of movies.